If you've been watching my videos lately, then you know that I have a problem. I've got a foot fault problem, and you can see that right here in this video. And today I want to address that problem, also talk about the role of the feet in the serve, how they're supposed to work together, how they're not supposed to work together. We'll talk about different stances and how you can optimize your serve yourself. Let's go ahead and dive right into it. First, let's talk about different stances, because it can be a little bit confusing sometimes, which is which, what the difference is. So we've got Roger Federer right here, and he uses a platform stance. That means that his feet start wide, a little bit more than shoulder width apart, and they stay wide, about shoulder width apart, all the way through his motion, up until he swings up towards the ball. So what that creates, there's pros and cons to each stance. The platform stance is really nice because it creates a wide base, and it kind of helps things feel a little bit more stable, a little bit more confident, maybe a little bit more in balance, depending on what you're used to and what style of play that you use. And so platform is really popular with a lot of elite world-class players. Not every player. We're going to look at other options in just a second, but Federer uses it, Djokovic uses it, and works great for them. But it doesn't work great for everybody. So again, this is the platform stance, and those are kind of a little bit of the pros and cons. One of the things that's not quite as good is it doesn't transfer body weight forwards quite as aggressively as some of the other ones. Let's go ahead and see what some of those other options are. Here's Gael Monfils, and he uses a pinpoint stance. And so you'll see really kind of different with what his feet are doing, how he's organizing himself below the waist. And really key difference here is he starts with his feet close together, and then his feet stay close together. Sometimes there's a little bit of wiggle room here, and there's stylistic differences even between different pinpoint players. Some players will take a little bit of a step forwards with their front foot, maybe a little step forwards with their back foot. But once things get to the trophy pose phase and everything kind of starts moving and cooking throughout the rest of the motion, the feet are together and they stay together throughout the full motion until it's time to swing forwards. The downside of this is I feel like it takes a little bit more athleticism and balance to really keep everything neat and tidy with the upper body when you've got both your feet so narrow below. But a positive here is that with the feet together, to me, it feels like it's a little easier to kind of launch and push forwards into the court compared to having your feet wide the whole time. So those are just kind of the general pros and cons. And Monfils, obviously also an extremely good player. He's got a great serve, but he does it very differently with the feet than Roger does. Now we've got Big John Isner, and John uses a hybrid stance. That means he starts wide, then his back foot comes in to join his front foot, and his feet push off from that kind of pinpoint-ish kind of stance, but starting with a wide stance. So let's look at it really quickly. First of all, you'll probably notice here that in practice, a lot of players do different things. Like in a match, John doesn't actually walk into his serve motion like this, but instead he'll start with his feet wide, and then as he tosses, the back foot comes forwards to come in close to his front foot, and he kind of brings it to rest on the ball of his foot while he goes into his trophy pose, and then he pushes up from more of a pinpoint type stance. The difference here is Monfils had both feet flat directly underneath himself, whereas John has a little bit different variation here with the back foot, just the ball of the foot down and the front foot flat on the court. But he's starting wide and then transitioning close and then pushing off from there. This is the stance that I used to use and that I liked because it felt to me like when I made that step forwards, I had some like flow and momentum going forwards, and I'm more of a doubles player, and I like to serve and volley, and so it felt confident for me to get my weight moving forwards and then push off of that pinpoint stance and really launch forwards into the court. Always felt really confident to me if I was going to come forwards to the net. John obviously doesn't serve and volley a whole lot, at least not in singles, but interestingly, some of the like huge servers like Isner and also Ivo Karlovic use a hybrid stance. Not all the biggest servers, use a hybrid stance, but just for whatever reason, the really big, tall, like huge servers tend to gravitate towards that. So Now you know the 3 different ways and kind of some of the pros and cons of what you can do with your feet in your serve. And now let's go and transition back to what I was doing and see the mistakes that I was making and why it just wasn't working for me. This is some match play from me back in August during a UTR tournament. And so you'll see here that I'm using that old hybrid stance that I used for years and years. And the problem that was popping up for me, the reason why it was getting me into trouble, is that my back foot was going past my front foot and actually past the baseline oftentimes. I was foot faulting a lot. And there's a lot of different problems with this. First of all, when the back foot goes past the front foot, it tends to open up and kind of twist the hips open a little prematurely. A lot of times the upper body follows as well, and the body starts to open a little bit too early. It also just kind of creates an uncomfortable looking kind of twist here between the lower body and the upper body. I mean, this just doesn't look very balanced or athletic. I mean, frankly, I look all kind of pretzeled up, and it's obviously not the way that it's supposed to look in terms of like hitting a fantastic, athletic, high quality, efficient serve. So it was not working for me. And oftentimes on the deuce side, I was actually foot faulting both ways. It's a foot fault to touch the baseline before you hit the serve, and it's also a foot fault to cross the center line. And I was a lot of times doing both because I was taking such an exaggerated step forwards. I don't know when I started doing this or how it started happening, but it definitely became a habit for me without me really realizing it. And as I started beginning to post competitive matches, you were all letting me know in the comments, which frankly I appreciate. It's not something I generally pay close attention to, but you all let me know about it immediately. And a lot of these matches were all kind of filmed in quick succession, and then they take a while to come out. So a lot of you have been kind of like waiting for like, why aren't you changing it? And it's not because I didn't care about having a better serve or to follow the rules. You absolutely should follow the rules of tennis. There's no question about it, especially somebody like me who is, I kind of have a platform and I'm trying to teach people how to play the game well and correctly. So it just took a while for us to get through all that content that we shot. So recently I've made it a change, and let me show you what that looks like. Some of you picked up on this already. The video that we just posted a couple days ago where I was training with Mike Trice was the first time in training that I started using my new serve approach. And so here you'll see that my feet start wide and they stay wide. So I've gone from a hybrid stance to a platform stance. And this is something I'm kind of already a little bit comfortable with because when I teach and I'm just trying to give repetition to a student, I always used platform stance anyway, because it's just one less thing to do. It's one less moving part, and it takes less time, it's more efficient, and it's easier to just toss a ball in the air and go into my motion and just feed or deliver a serve for my student if they're trying to practice returns or whatever it happens to be. So throughout my teaching career, I actually hit a lot of serves from just standing there. It was either pinpoint or it was platform, but I would just stand there, toss, and go through my motion. So it's something I was kind of relatively comfortable with already. Not to say there's not work to do here. There is work to do here. Something that I notice, and I'm glad I'm watching the recording, is sometimes I take a step with my front foot. My front foot is getting a little bit squirrely sometimes, and I need to keep an eye on that. Here's an example of that, where my front foot kind of starts off like pivoting on my heel, and then I take a little, it raises a little bit and then takes a little step forwards. And I had no awareness that I was doing this in my practice session or while I've been practicing the platform stance serve. So I'm glad I got to see this. I'm glad I'm watching. Something else that I think I probably could improve on is I think I'm over rotating sometimes because this is a relatively wide stance. I think my upper body is tending to kind of rotate back a little bit further than it should. And this kind of goes hand in hand a little bit with my arm motion stuff that I've been working on as well. And I'll have an update on that soon. It's something I'm still working on, still work in progress, as well as the feet. But I just wanted to post an update, I think on the deuce side in particular. Where's a deuce side serve? on the deuce side in particular, this is just a big, big turn. And there's a long ways to go for me to get back around again to be able to hit through the court. It's not a bad position if I just want to spin the heck out of the ball, especially with slice. But I've been struggling hitting through the court. I've been struggling to find my flat serve. And that's kind of gone hand in hand a little bit with my arm, like tightness and the poor racket drop. I'll link to those. I've already made videos talking about that. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, you can check out the first comment down below. But anyway, this is what I'm working on, and here's how I'm working on it and why I'm working on it. It's really worth repeating, I think, that world-class players use all three approaches. I don't think the hybrid was really paying dividends for me anymore. I had some bad habits down there. So my goal here is just to totally clean that up, wipe it out. I already had some comfort with the platform, so that's what my goal is going forwards, is to stay with the platform stance. So hopefully this gives you some context and you learned something. If so, if you enjoyed the video, do me a favor and click the like button. Every click of the like button sends a penny to the Milwaukee Tennis Education Foundation. Thank you for supporting this channel. Thank you for supporting our local community here in Milwaukee. I really appreciate it. And let me know if you have any comments or questions down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be in touch again soon with more updates. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.